Record. All right, we're recording. Ooh. Okay. Start this out. Going to completely online schools is a topic we decided to discuss this week. Online education, its validity a little bit over the course of the years, I suppose, between high school, talking a little bit about that experience specifically. So go ahead. I'll let you start it off.
Yeah, it's been interesting from what I've read about teaching virtually K through 12. Nothing really is great about it. So, I mean, I had all these grand ideas in my head of, oh, it'd be nice to do, and I wouldn't mind doing it. I think probably for, for 1 or 2 classes like supplemental pay, but to do it full time sounds like it sounds like it's been a really rough experience for the people.
Yeah, and I think some of the things to think about, like, I guess we're talking about this in context, but kind of like in my brain to kind of put it in context, like we're talking about like fully online virtual school for a K-12 student, a student that is not, for whatever reason, would need to not go to the classroom.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the articles that I read, they give this quote from this guy whose name is Clayton Christensen, who's apparently a big deal. He is a professor of business administration at Harvard University, and everybody think like that he's kind of the guru.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he is a business professor will kind of clue you in on maybe why he's kind of not correct. So anyways, but they had asked him this question, do you think that education is finally ready for the internet? And his answer, I absolutely do. I think that not only are we ready, but adoption is occurring at a faster rate than we had thought. We believe that by the year 2019, it's pretty soon,
Wow.
half of all classes for grades K through 12 will be taught online. The rise of online learning carries with it an unprecedented opportunity to transform the schooling system into a student-centric one that can affordably customize the different student needs by allowing for all students to learn at their appropriate pace and path, thereby allowing each student to realize his or her fullest potential. The article I read where they quoted him really kind of slammed him for that and said, that's very romanticized, is my opinion of that quote, that, in 5 years from now, half of K through 12 is going to be online in the United States. That's a little extreme. And he just is making it sound like it's better than it is. He's not taking into account some of the issues. And I think it works well for some kids that are really disciplined, but the majority of kids that they're actually pulling into these schools typically aren't the most disciplined kids. It's not your AP kid who just wants to take an extra AP class. It's typically those kids that have been failing out, are from low-income families or have other issues.
And it makes me wonder, like, in the fully virtual online school, like, what kind of situation are those kids in? Are they having them go to a place and do all of their work at one time? Are they allowing them the freedom to do it? Is it a self-paced thing? Is it a self-guided? Because there's a lot of different levels of online learning, I think, that fit into this conversation. I don't necessarily agree with him saying that half of all kids will be taking virtual online courses. Like, that's ridiculous. Just knowing where we're at in the world. But I mean, the blended, especially in the international world, like what I've been in the last few years, like the blended education, like almost every school internationally has either a bring your own device program or a 1-to-1 program, depending on where. Like almost every single international school.
I bet.
And so, and I guess I not every single, but the majority of the ones that are, in kind of like better situations. But the thing that I always try to think of is what I worry in America when talking about this kind of thing is like, how are the kids gaining access to this? Is it a cultural thing that they're like just thinking that, oh, well, this is another different kind of school, or are they actually going at it with like, I don't want to sit in class, so I do get to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, are these kids that would not do well regardless of what system we provided them with, or is this, is there a system in which that can be better suited towards them? Because, a lot of the online courses that I see today, especially the ones for high school level stuff, I help kids get into their, what we call Pomoja through the IB. And it's like, It's basically just online credits for courses. They are very, I guess I would say, basic almost. Like it's like technology that I would consider not to be like current technology. The very little use of images, little use of interactive video. It's a lot of just like reading and question answering and things like that. There's not a lot of the things that I would consider to be technological. You know what I mean? That I would consider to be sort of like guiding things in an educational format, especially for a kid who's, in grade 10 or 11 or something like that. If you're a college student, whatever, like you need to just do it and read books or whatever. But for a K through 12 kid, I think that the environment that we've created for them online is not the type of environment that they would necessarily be successful with.
Yeah. I think it's tricky. And it's interesting because this guy had said that it makes for more student-centered learning because they can set their own pace. When in reality, I think it sounds student-centered, but really it's basically the teacher putting up worksheet, questions online, like you said. And so it's still pretty much the teacher's creating everything and the kids just responding instead of responding on a worksheet on a piece of paper. Right. They're responding online, and it's not real. It's not what they were really thinking.
Right. It's kind of the natural phenomenon, right? Like we continue to do what we know as teachers. So like instead of like creating something unique, we just put it out there in that way.
Yeah. One teacher, this one article, like I was fascinated. It was just this lady's blog, and she calls it 15 months in virtual charter hell, a teacher's tale. Oh, it was this is why I'm like, I can't believe we would consider doing this. She said in order to be considered full-time, she had to have over 225 students.
What?
And full-time pay, let me look at that, was like 42,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's for what grade was she doing, or like what?
I believe she was with high school, and she was with an organization called K-12 Inc.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
It's the largest virtual charter school in the nation.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
She basically says it's run like a machine. It's run like a company. One of the things that there's so many disturbing parts of what she said, but she said, kids can enter at any time and take your class. And she's like, at any given time, I easily have 30 different curriculums going at the same time. And so I have a kid that might actually start taking the class because it's a money-making machine. Right. And so, K-12 Inc. is saying, okay, this kid enrolled, November 30th, he needs to do your first assignment. So she's grading the first assignment for that kid, the 5th assignment for this kid, the 12th assignment. So, it's all over the board. And so individualized instruction is, how do you do that? And she said, they said a lot of these kids will go from one of these virtual schools to the next. So she's like, they end up dropping out of this one. She said one kid literally never showed up for class. And we said, we make a lot of exemptions, and the kid graduated. And they said, oh, well, he would, every once in a while, he would just keep emailing and making excuses. And finally, gets to the point where it's graduation. It's like, no, grades are in. You didn't do anything. And, principal comes up to our graduation and says, or the headmaster, whoever's in charge, said, no, he's walking.
Yeah. So, and I think that's kind of part of it though, right? Like it is not the perfect system, by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that if that's what people are trying to make it, they're kind of sadly mistaken. Now, can it be used? Now, I do think that it can be used to supplement things. I do think that there is a place for it, but there needs to be some things that happen first. There needs to be sort of some common best practices that kind of get out to people, especially in the K through 12 world. For someone like myself who's deeply involved in technology, it seems like you have a passion for it, but we're taking that next step towards masters and understanding the roles of these two. For the common teacher, that doesn't necessarily happen, I don't think. As being a tech coach here, I've seen that doesn't happen. They're not getting to have these discussions and understand. They're just getting the picture that we need to use technology more. Or, there's options for kids. They can just take the courses that are provided by, for us, it's for the IB. They provide this Pomoja, which is an online learning environment. And there's not really that discussion of what is the best way to have this? What is the best way to set it up so the kids can be successful? Because you're right, that is obviously not successful. 200 and some students and allowing them to enroll at any time is just ridiculous. That just seems
at one point she had 450 kids or something like it. Should have, like, if somebody had to go on leave and they gave her all of the kids and she didn't get extra pay.
Yeah.
It was just, you're giving somebody. So it's interesting. I was hoping maybe you had more positive notes about it, but like even the stats, she said nearly 80% of our students were failing their classes.
Really?
Yeah. And that's why they have to keep making exceptions. Like for that one kid to graduate, what did she call it? She called it, gosh, let's see what she said it was. Well, she criticized that they weren't learning deeply.
So, and this is a business, right? Like, like you said earlier, like this is a business like a business model being put onto education, basically.
Yeah, and that's the
and
problem.
that really is what it is, like, and which is kind of what schools have turned into in a lot of ways. It's still that same model. We're using the factory system. If you see Sir Ken Robinson, these guys, they do their talks and they show school as a factory, which we all sit together and then we all do these things and blah, blah, blah. I think the key is that, like, for me, it seems like if it is going to work, that they're going to integrate technology in this way, having kids have the option to take all online courses. The courses need to be designed not just by teachers, but by school districts. Like, you need to have that, like, hire a couple people that are specialists to help design these areas, show your teachers where to input the comment, and then make it something that you have this virtual academy that, teachers can get less time on their regular classes. They can work on this, something like that. I don't know, because the only way the content's going to get right, and the only way that to me, the validity of it, right, that rigor part that is also like acceptable level for diploma is only going to come if you tie it to some sort of set of standards. Like with these companies, it's like, why not make exemptions? Like, what's, like, easy enough. You're a customer. You paid. You emailed 10 times. Here's your diploma. But if it was tied somehow to, like, the local districts, to the government, some way like that, they were mandated to do it. It seems like it would have a little more backbone. I don't know.
It's just tricky. And she was just mentioning, I go to this article specifically just because it was deeply disturbing. She just said,
sounds better.
These are at-risk kids. She said, the majority of my students are at-risk kids. She said, I spent way more time trying to track down a kid. She's like, via email or phone, and then they would just quit, or you never hear from them, or and then I just spent, I felt like I was literally glued to my computer screen. And I'm curious if our professors feel that way doing distance learning, if they feel like we're glued to the computer because everything we do is online. Because everything they grade, everything they create has to also be in that scenario. And I don't know, honestly, that I would have done distance learning for my master's if I wasn't doing a tech degree. You know what I mean? Like, it actually works well for what we're doing.
Yeah, it like forces you to learn it a little bit more.
Yeah, but if I'm, we're both history teachers, if I were doing a master's in histories, I would never do it online.
Yeah,
like,
it'd be pretty hard.
My deep learning wouldn't be there. You don't build that community with other students, so it's tricky. But as an adult, again, we're motivated. The kids aren't as motivated.
Yeah, definitely. And they don't see, I think that they don't see like I said, they don't see the benefit to them of just finishing it like that. Like, if, this is your last chance, so to speak, like, just get it done this way. There's no repercussion. Like, what happens? They get an email that says they failed, or they're just like, oh, great. And then they can move on. There's no actual, like, ramification for them, which is, tough, I suppose.
I mean, I'd like to see instances where it's successful. I think if you're a kid and you're doing entirely online, you're missing a really important social aspect of your life. And I think a lot of these kids, she was saying, these are the kids that more than anything literally need somebody to greet them at the door every day and say, hi, how are you? I'm glad you're here today. And there's nobody, they don't have that personal contact.
Completely agree.
And so it just makes it tricky. And so she got out pretty quickly. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting hearing about that. And that's why my district doesn't do a lot of it, because I looked into it. We offer the core classes online, and that's it. Just a few here and there, like if somebody wants to make it up or do it in summer school. But otherwise, there aren't a ton of options.
Yeah, more for support really than anything else instead of like driving education.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it's going to continue until someone proves that it's beneficial. You know,
Yeah.
in Asia right now, there's a big push to push everything online for both higher education, K through 12. Like it's becoming a really big thing. I mean, you can even take like certain traditional Chinese medicine courses online and things like that through universities levels now. Yeah, like so it's I think we're in an interesting thing, and if markets like this are going to drive online education now as well, not just the United States, you're going to see some, I think, innovative softwares, some things come out of it that are going to be, like I said, if it's delivered in a way that is less like, it just seems like we've taken the principles behind school and we've put them into online education. Like we haven't really like transformed and made online education what it could be, like with like a choose your own adventure literally scenario where they get to go and do different projects and things like that and like have to walk through those kind of things. It's nothing like that now. K through 12 online education is like sit down, answer these questions, read these things, and then we'll give you a diploma. That's the reason they left school in the first place, most of those kids.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. It's like we're pushing the issue and we know the boundaries of it, or like not necessarily the boundaries, but like the potential of it. But we haven't really sat down and like as a teaching and learning world and just been like, okay, this is the best way to do this, for this point in time, for this technology we have, and then come up with a plan to implement new technologies from there, new softwares, new skills.
What's interesting, with my action research, I interviewed 6 kids in a group forum and just asking them, because I had them use a learning management system that some people use when they go, I mean, school is easy. For some, for some people, that's how they do online education is something. It's like Moodle or Edmodo or even the classic, what we use, or Canvas or whatever we're switching over to at K-State. And the kids liked parts of it, but I didn't ask this, but they were reiterating, like, we like being in the classroom. I wasn't asking that question because I wasn't saying, do you want to leave the classroom? But they kept saying things like that. Or they'd say, while the discussion is great for the people that are quiet in class, I learn more when we actually have a real discussion.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, okay, well, so it was interesting to hear from the kids, like, what is their perspective on it? Like, they're living it, this is a possibility for them. So what does it look like? So
yeah, well, interesting stuff.
So I'll be curious how this works out for you in the future.
Yeah, we'll see how things change around, or who knows, maybe I won't stay long.
I hope you don't have 15 months of horribleness.
Yeah, of course. Cool, terrific discussion.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Stop recording.